Previously on JSpeaks.
If you can learn something new about yourself, it was a great relationship. So the other piece I would add is that a lot of people think, oh, you get married because you love the person. And that's ridiculous. You can love someone without marrying them. Or they think, oh, you get married to be happy. No, there are a lot of unhappily married people. You get married for one reason and one reason only, and that is because marriage helps making living life easier. So couples who are committed and who want a relationship with viability are the ones that are asking themselves and their partner, how can I help to make your life easier? How can I help to make your life easier? How can I help to make your life easier? And there's a flip of that is, how can I avoid making your life harder? How can I avoid making your life harder? So when you leave the clothes on the floor, that's making the person's life harder, right?
Check out today. Link in bio.
Hello everyone. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. And for those of you who are subscribed to JSpeaks, thank you so much and welcome back. As you know, it is my mission, it is my passion to bring to you all conversation topics that are positive, motivational, educational, and informational. Today, I am so excited to be here with Candice Cartner, who is an executive coach and licensed therapist who helps business leaders and others build clear visions and create mindset shifts in order to move past barriers in their lives that might affect their relationships, careers, or their lives in general. Please sit back, relax, and most importantly, listen. And hopefully after today's episode, you will have a clearer vision as to how to change your mindset in order to improve your growth. So Candice, it's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for making so much time to speak with me.
Yes, I'm very excited.
And so before we get started, I would like if you would care to share some information or a little background about yourself to me and the audience.
Put me on the spot. What you got? What do you want to know?
Your career path, how you got here.
All right.
Yes.
So my path to what I'm doing now is a little bumpy. Let's just say when we get into the topic, you guys will understand why this is important to me. We're a little rocky in college and those kind of things. And so ultimately, I was in a position where I was like, I don't want to be in college forever. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. So what am I good at right now? What classes are actually ones that I've passed pretty easily? And so I sat down with an advisor and ended up with them going, you've taken a lot of sociology and psychology classes and you can get a degree in that pretty quickly. And so at the time I was like, that's easy for me, so I'm going to do that. We'll talk about later why that didn't mean that I was taking the easy way out. But so I did that, and I don't know if people are aware, but you can't do much with a sociology and psychology degree without a master's degree. And so I was fortunate that last year in school I had gotten some really good mentors, and they were able to help me, despite my terrible GPA, to get into a counseling program. And so I actually started out in school counseling. My dad was a school principal. I'd spent a lot of time in that environment, so that felt very normal to me. And so from there, I ended up having a mentor that was like, you really should be a therapist. And I didn't know what I was going to do anyway. And they were like, so she shifted me into this other program. Her name was Jerry Miller. If you ever see this, I appreciate you. She's got some great books out there, but she kind of encouraged me into that. I didn't really know what it meant. Then I started a career, and I have worked in a lot of different capacities before I got where I'm at right now. Community mental health out in the world, in people's homes. I've worked with kids and grown-ups. I've done forensic evaluations in the prison. I have led nonprofit and for-profit mental health organizations that are community mental health. I've worked at 2 universities. And then I have the therapy practice that I've had for almost a decade now, and also recently, in the last few years, have started a coaching firm, I guess, which is how you, I think, learned about me. And with that just kind of came from the demand of what I was doing. People wanted mindset work, but they didn't want therapy. And so I had to create that.
Wow, what a wealth of experience, what a background. That's
A lot of bumps in the road, a lot of turning points. Right?
a lot of turning points, but we're here, you're here. So I'm very excited for today's interview. So shifting today's focus, on the topic of mindset, I feel like it would be apropos to start off with, defining the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
All right, so you guys are going to bear with me in my handwriting and my misspellings. Part of my story is dyslexia, so we're going to do our best. So what he was just talking about was fixed mindset. Versus what? Growth. So we've heard these words a lot, right? Fixed mindset, growth mindset, on the front of Time magazine, whatever. And we're like, what is this, right? So the general understanding when we think about fixed mindset is it's this idea that we have a very, what's the word? Not fragmented, limited amount of potential. So this is where we talk about IQ scores. How many of us, and you can speak for yourself, at some point before we were in 3rd grade, 4th grade, we knew or we identified as a smart kid or a not smart kid? They start pulling kids out into AG classes. How did you know if you were going to be identified as a smart kid or a not smart kid?
By my grades. How I compared to my classmates.
Yeah. Maybe how your teachers taught you differently.
Absolutely.
The way that what their expectations are. So we have lived in this world for a really long time with people thinking things like IQ or other determinations of what our potential are meant something about what our future was going to be. And what we know from science is that that's not even true. It's also not true for personality. So this is beyond our capacity as people to grow and to change in our life. This is about just our evolution of who we are. We know personality doesn't stay the same over a lifetime, but people think that it does. So a fixed mindset is the sense that we have a path that says, Johnny's only going to go this far, Jenny's going to go about this far, Jack's going to go this far, and we know based on these tests, these grades, these different things, and those messages get delivered to us. We either are or we're not the kid that gets pulled out for AG, right? We either are or we're not the one that the teacher smiles at and brings and pulls aside to put a smiley face on our paper and tell us we did a good job. We are or we're not the person that they think is, a hard worker because maybe it came easier to us or not. So that's the basic premise. It's a complex thing and we, can get into that a little bit more, but it's just this idea that you don't get to decide how far you go in life. You don't get to decide how smart you are. You don't get to decide what you're good at. Those things are predetermined. It's kind of a sad story, right? Mm-hmm. What's really sad is, so for the kids like me, we've had a conversation. I think that for me, I was the kid that they were like, you're going to have limited potential. You might be a jock. You might get by on that. You might get by on this, but I had undiagnosed dyslexia and ADHD. There were lots of things that I struggled with for different reasons, right? And so when you start struggling and you start getting those messages, you start getting in trouble and you stop working as hard because you already know what category you're in. I was the kid that wasn't going to go far, right? What happens to the kids that get pulled out and they're on the other end? What's your guess? How does fixed mindset affect them?
I feel as though since society tells them at an early age, you're on this track, you're this type of person, I guess it either influences their confidence in themselves.
Sure. And it's interesting because the initial thing is a spike, right? So Carol Dweck is the person that really, this has been around for a long time, but it was really, really outlined well by Carol Dweck. It's a book called Mindset. It's great. So check it out if you're interested in this topic. But what's really interesting is the kids with fixed mindset that start out with struggling just assume they're going to struggle, that they're never going to be good at school, that they're never going to be okay. And so their effort goes down, right? Because it's kind of like if I were standing here today being like, in order to be successful, I have to be 6'4". He's sitting down. I'm standing up. You can't tell. There's this, like, that's not going to happen. So why would I put work into that? You know, I'm not going to go eat broccoli thinking I'm going to get tall. I'm old. I'm not going to get taller. And so it's that same thing when you have a fixed mindset about your capacity as a person, right? And so those people are going to go, I'm not going to work very hard, because why? I mean, that's ultimately how it goes. They may work hard for a long time, or they may, before that happens, but ultimately it's, I can only go so far. So why would I keep trying? You think on the surface that that's going to be advantageous for the kids that did well first, right? But what we found is it's almost more detrimental to them, because what will happen is they will grow up thinking it's supposed to be easy, right? That they don't have to try very hard, that these things came to them easy when they're a kid. And so in order to be doing something you're supposed to be doing, it must come easy. And like when I worked at universities, this popped up. This, in my opinion, is one of the reasons why mental health struggles happen for people in a surprising way in college, because maybe they went through high school and went through all those things, didn't struggle, kind of were able to get through, get by, didn't disappoint anybody or themselves because they were just smart enough to do that. And that's great. They get to college, and college is a challenge. They've never been challenged. The discomfort of that challenge makes them second guess themselves, right? My identity is I'm good at things. This is supposed to come easy to me. And we know that if people are growing, it's uncomfortable. So what happens is they get into college or wherever it is that there's now new challenges and changes, and they have a meltdown because their expectations of themselves are unrealistic. How they identify success is in the outcome, not in the challenge, not in the process, right? And what's really sad is there's been studies, and I can't remember the exact age group, but it was school-age kids. And it was done by Carol Dweck, the person that wrote this book that I'm talking about. The kids that were high achievers and did something that was hard would start to lie and cheat because they didn't want anybody to see that something was hard for them. So instead of saying, hey, teacher, I don't understand, can you help me? They were either staying up all night, running themselves into the ground, making an effort, or if you asked them what their scores were or what was going on, they would not tell the truth because it was so ingrained in them that in order to be valuable, valid, worthy, they needed to succeed at everything that they did, and it needed to be easy. And so that's really the biggest thing. Those are high risk things. If you think about it, I'm sure you've seen people struggle with this. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. So the difference between fixed mindset and growth mindset at a core level is that people with growth mindset have an understanding that we can grow as much as we want to. We just make progress. We just have to try harder. We just have to keep putting effort in. The struggle is where the growth is. And I think when you and I talked about this first time, we were excited because we both were thinking about like weightlifting, right? We say, the point, that's why I love my weightlifters. They get this really easily, is that where do we know growth is happening?
Over time.
And at the failure, right? Like we only know how far we can go and how good we are if we're willing to fail. Fixed mindset makes no one willing to fail. The people that struggle give up. They don't even know where their end point is, right? They don't pursue that end point because they don't think there's a point. The people that have this initial high capacity also don't pursue failure because they don't want anybody to see that it's hard. Growth mindset people say, how do I get to the end of what I'm capable of so that I know what I'm capable of, and tomorrow I'll know where to start? How do I get better than I was yesterday and keep going and keep going and keep going? So it's this understanding that we should be failing, that if we're not failing, we're not challenging ourselves, we're not pushing ourselves. And so we'll talk in a minute in more detail about what really gets in the way of that, but that's really the biggest difference. Is a person with fixed mindset believes that they are limited, they don't have control over their outcomes. There's it's going to be embarrassing to not do well or to fail or to struggle. And so we're going to stay in our comfort zone, whatever that is. Whatever that means, we're going to stay there. They're not prepared for a challenge to mean that they're doing the right thing. People with growth mindset look for the challenge. You hear people say pain is gain. It's played out, right? Played out a little bit with the pain is gain. But discomfort meaning growth, right? These people believe that, yeah, this doesn't feel good right now, but that's how I know I'm onto something. And they have found teachers that can implement growth mindset, can help kids know, like, the grade doesn't mean anything. And it's as simple as, like, when we give kids tests, we'll write -2 out of 10, right? Like if they miss 2, -2 out of 10. Why do we say -2 instead of +8? Right? We don't say you got 8 of, like, and I personally, I have little kids, so I'm trying to implement this. It's like, if they come home and they miss 2 things, instead of me immediately going, well, what happened that you missed these 2? I'm going to go, awesome. You got 8 of these right. That's amazing. And we're not saying just let people by and not, like, hope more for them. But we're going to say, like, look at what you did well.
So it's all about perspective.
It is simply that. Mindset in general, as a whole, we're talking about 2 different kinds, is nothing more than the lens that you see the world out of. And our lens is built on our beliefs, right? And if we believe we can only do so much, we're only going to try so hard, right? If we believe things are limitless, because they're limited to the potential of our work and movement forward, we're going to operate that way. And so that is where mindset changes everything. It changes the reason why you go to the bathroom. I mean, it encompasses everything. So it's huge. That's why it's important.
So curious, do you have any data or do you know about homeschooled children? Because you talked about how it's easy for high achieving young children to have this inflated sense of ego because they are put into a different classroom setting.
Like compared to peers.
Compared to your peers. Homeschooled, unless you have a sibling that's a twin, or it's hard. Is there any?
It's actually, I mean, the school thing is really just an example because language is one of the biggest pieces of it. So, like, for example, even what we're talking about with the test, like when we're talking to kids about what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong, we have this tendency to be like, you are really smart. Look, you did good on this test. You are really smart. So for the high achieving kids, for example, if we're constantly telling people, and I'm not saying you can never say people are smart. It's okay. We're not going to demonize it altogether. But the reality of being like, you are smart, that's why you made a good grade. Does that give you credit for your hard work? No, it's just telling you were born this way, so we expect you to do well. You were born smart, so you should do well. You shouldn't have to work hard for it because you're smart, right? Versus if I say, like, let's say that you're my kid and we're doing homeschool and I've got a test and you've got an 80 or whatever, and we'll say that's a good grade. If I come to you and go, look at how smart you are, you made an 80. I'm undermining the work you did. I'm undermining the growth. I'm undermining any of that. Versus if I say, you know what? You made an 80 on this. I know how hard you worked. I remember when you couldn't do this thing right here and you took these steps and did this stuff, and look at where we're at now. It's very different, right? Because I'm acknowledging your discomfort in it. I'm telling you what you did to get there and that was good and that was okay because there were mistakes and imperfection and all the things that got you there, right? And so simple as that. Homeschool could be a great place for growth mindset or a great place for fixed mindset. Depends on the relationship between the people, the language that they use, the way they approach problems, right? And also if they do poorly, like a kid that's smart, someone in homeschool or any other setting may be like, how could you make a grade like this? You are smart. So you're saying, so you're lazy if you're smart and you struggle with, like, no, we want you've got to go to somebody and say, hey, what happened here? I know usually you work really hard and you're able to figure it out. What got in the way of you making a good grade here? Very different. same conversation. We're trying to figure out like what happened and how we can help you move forward. But one of them acknowledges like it's normal to have some kind of struggle or to be challenged, and it's okay if you aren't where you're supposed to be right now, because we need to figure out what you need in order to get where you want to go. So I think it really doesn't matter. It happens in relationships. So this is the one, we won't even go into this today, but it can happen in marriages. It can happen in boyfriend-girlfriend relationships. Like the language that we use about why people do what they do and why they achieve what they achieve has a critical impact on this stuff. We think about kids because that's when it starts to develop. But I mean, how would you feel if somebody's just like, we knew you were going to do that because you're so smart.
Yeah.
Versus, man, I'm so glad all those late nights paid off. I know that you like really got in there and did the work, and that must not have been easy.
So the type of dialogue is important. Word choice is very important.
Yeah, because one of them assumes it's just who you are. It's just like, you got this. And so then like, it's very isolating for someone who is smart, IQ-wise, or is that assumed person, because they're like, nobody thinks I should have to work hard. So I can't let anybody see me struggle. I can't let anybody see me work hard. I have to put on this face that like everything's fine, until they're backing up and feeling like nobody knows my truth. Nobody knows that this is hard for me. And if they know that it's hard for me, they might not like me anymore. They may not believe in me anymore. And so they start to back themselves into a corner. And this is what I see at universities, where they just let it pile up and don't show because they don't think they're supposed to.
Interesting. So acceptance from our environment seems to be very important.
So, and I want to, this one we'll use caution with that, because I believe that you can control your own mindset and choose not to buy into that stuff. So I want to make sure that we say that everybody has their own control over this. But if you are raising children, or you are trying to create a certain kind of environment with your family or with your friends or whatever, it's critical. You're going to have better outcomes if the environment is supportive. If you're a parent that goes, how do I help foster this? Versus somebody that doesn't have a vision for it. And I think that's the biggest mistake. Most people aren't going, I want my kid to have a fixed mindset. I've never met anybody that says, I want my kid to feel like they have limited potential and that their work doesn't mean anything and all of that stuff. But most of us, that's what we've experienced, right? Like that's what we've learned. We've learned that it's what's on the resume or what's on the report card or all these different things mean something. And we want people to be successful. And so because that's how we're judging it, we just naturally default to that, right? And so you have to make a really conscious effort to go, what language am I using? What message am I sending? When they have a bad day, or the day that they don't make an A, or that they don't do well, like, what's going to happen? Sports are another good example. The parents kill me with this. I'm going to give you guys a little tip here. I tell people, and again, it's not all happy, make it not, stressful. When my kid gets in the car, and I'm not a perfect parent, I'm really far from it, but these are just the things that I do from that conscious effort, right? Whether he wins the gold medal or he decided to lay down and pick dandelions in the field at T-ball, what I'm going to ask him is, and I did not make this up, so I can't take credit for it, but I don't know where it came from, is rosebud thorn, right? So the rose is, what did you do really well? What are you really proud of, right? The bud is, where are you almost there? Where have you improved? What is something that you weren't so good at last week, last year, last month, that you felt like today, even if you're not proud of it yet, was better than it used to be? And thorn, obviously, is, what's that thing that you realize is a pain today, and a pain point, something that didn't go as well or didn't go as planned, and you would like for it to be better? And then we go through and we go, okay, well, how do you keep growing in the rose? How do you keep growing in the thorn? How do you keep growing in the bud? I did it backwards. Dyslexia, backwards. And so we start to very much normalize having a growth mindset, because we're not just teaching it, preaching it, we're just doing it. Like it's something that you do. As you go, let's talk about it. Not, why didn't you do this, or you didn't work hard enough, or you didn't, like, how does that help? Let's normalize growth. right?
Interesting. So having those internal dialogue, having that internal dialogue, you know, and being mindful of areas in your life that you're doing well in, improving. Interesting.
Because it makes it okay where you're at right now. And we won't go into this today, but you can Google a reticular activating system. It starts to put those messages in your head. And the belief system that's being built is, I'm supposed to be growing in things. The journey matters, the steps matter. And so I think that's what's really the biggest thing is like, how do we just make it normal for people to think this way? Because most of what my work is focused on is how do we disassemble old beliefs that were internalized through these different processes, these different things, whether it was in school or with family or with a parent or whatever. And how do we replace it with a more accurate? I don't believe in sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. Everybody be positive all the time. I have a big value on discomfort. But we really, really, really want to have it where people just believe that it is okay to be where they're at and to know what their next step is. And so that is the belief system that I typically try to help people get into. And that's kind of, I think, where we're headed in this conversation. So we'll get a little bit of that.
No, please, you can definitely start.
Okay, so we talked about fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And so the next thing we want to talk about is that discomfort, right? So we're talking about the discomfort. What do most people do when they experience discomfort? And this is just like psychological pattern that people have. If you experience discomfort, I want you to think about like poke your finger on something or whatever it is. Like, what do people do?
Freeze.
They can freeze up. They might run away. They might get ready to fight, right? Like whatever it is. So we're talking about fight or flight, right? Discomfort, from an evolutionary sense, always brings people back to an initial response. How do I stay safe?
Yeah, because we like comfort. We like to be comfortable.
And if you think about like, and I'm not a historian, so don't judge me here. We're actually going to talk about things that weren't real, probably. Is like there was at some point in history when like if you experienced discomfort, it meant you were starving, you were about to be eaten by a bear, you didn't have fire to stay warm, you weren't going to be able to feed your kids. There were like real dangers to your safety, right? There were not like any time that there was that 9 times out of 10. What was it? It was a safety risk. It was a well-being risk. If you talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's like that basic needs stuff wasn't being met because that's all that there was. Everybody spent all day trying to stay warm, stay dry, stay fed, do those different things. And so if one of those things wasn't being met, we really did have a risk. Now, enter whatever decade this is, and we say, what are the things that stress us out?
Success.
The grade on my test.
The grade, oh yeah.
The promotion at work. Are they going to like my presentation? I hope you guys like my presentation. Those kind of things, right? Like, are those risks to your physical safety?
Physical, no.
No, but that is still what your brain thinks. So when we experience that level of discomfort, our brain anticipates that there's going to be pain, and that if there's going to be pain, then there's going to be significant danger. And so our brain goes, don't die. Right? Mm-hmm. And so that's why fight or flight gets so intense. And I think we were talking earlier even about like little kids. That's why little kids have anxiety, because we are like biologically programmed to have that kind of response in order to keep ourselves safe. And so when we experience discomfort, if we go back to those times, it makes sense. Have an automatic reaction of fight or flight. You're going to fight, run, or freeze. Like the bear, you're going to know, did it get you or not? Pretty quickly, right? Like that's not going to last for years and months and decades like some of these other stressors that we're talking about, because success is never over. What does that really mean? You're going to meet one thing and then you're going to move on to the next and move on to the next, and you're always going to feel the same. And so that's just going to put you in fight or flight all the time. Bad for your body, bad for your brain, right?
Your body, bad for your brain.
We don't want either one of those things. And so when we think about it that way, we go, discomfort has to mean something different in today's society. So you have to actually have this like belief that overrides what we're talking about, right? You have to be able to move beyond that. And the way that it's described by David Emerald, and he's going to be part of the story that we're going to continue to unfold here, is he calls it dynamic tension. And like, good, I have a rubber band here. He explains it like this. This is dynamic tension. So discomfort comes up, and what you're really experiencing is tension. And the things that may cause this are reactive triggers. So it may be a threat to success. It may be that you feel not smart. It may be that you feel like you disappointed somebody. It could be anything that, it could be too much noise in the room. Like it can be anything that is a trigger for someone else and that creates a sense of stress or a sense of worry, anxiety. Most people, when they experience this, they do one of two things. They break the rubber band. This one's not going to break because I don't want to slap my face. They either break it, which loses the tension. You lose the power of the tension, right? Or they let the tension go. And like, if you think about fight, flight, freeze, all of that, it kind of matches with that. Because you either fight or run, which is kind of busting through it. So you lose the power of the tension. Or the freeze, fawn, where you kind of shut down, right? And then you lose the power of the tension too. What I'm going to encourage people to do, and this is what growth mindset is talking about, is to hold the tension for a minute. Not forever. We're not gluttons for punishment here. But we want to hold it for long enough to be like, what is this? And why is this here? Why am I experiencing this discomfort?
So not act impetuously.
Exactly. Not try to escape the pain. Because that's what and like that's a way to think about it, is our tendency is pain reliever, right? Mm-hmm. But if I take Tylenol for my headache, did I solve the headache problem or did I just make it stop hurting?
You can stop hurting.
Yeah, I don't know why I had a headache and I don't know how to prevent it in the future. I just know that I made it stop hurting right now, right? And so, there's a time and place for that, but in general, you don't want to live your whole life that way. So if we say, okay, we want to harness this energy, because tension is energy, right? Like you probably understand this stuff way more than me from a smartness standpoint, but we'll go with that. Like there's the energy there and we want to use it. And so what you have to realize is that over here, marker hand, is where I want to be. Over here, not marker hand, is where I am right now. 99% of the time when we experience that stress, that tension, whatever it is that we're going, here's where I am and here's where I want to be in this moment, right? And there's a little bit of distance. What stands in the way? Time, money, resources, whatever it is. And we can figure it out. Problem is, most people don't do that part. They go, this makes me uncomfortable. They don't even acknowledge that there's something that they wanted or didn't want. Like, it's just like, this doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. So not only do they not know where they were even wanting to go, because that's the inspiration. My husband laughs. I will sit and he'll be like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm just trying to figure something out. And he's like, do you need something? And I'm like, I sit with the discomfort for a minute where I'm like, it's not comfortable, but I know I need to figure something out. This is telling me something. And so you need to sit with it long enough to know what it's telling you. And then you take what it's telling you and you figure out what's your next step. But if you let go of that tension and you shut down, and we're going to talk about why you shut down in just a second, you lose all of that. And so whether you're the fixed mindset kid that goes, this hurts, they said I was dumb, why am I trying so hard? Or this hurts, they told me it was supposed to be easy and I was supposed to be successful no matter what. They break it the other way. It's real, right? Like this matters. We need to teach them to just kind of hang out here, move around a little bit in it, and know that this is where they're supposed to be. It's a good thing. But what do we tell people about discomfort? Get away from it, right? Mm-hmm. So, moving on to the very next thing, we're going to talk about something called the Karpman drama triangle. I'm going to write this one down so that you guys can look it up if you want to. It's one of the most profound and simple things, I think, that has ever been developed to explain human behavior. So this was developed in, I think, the 60s by a guy named Stephen Karpman. And he was a psychiatrist that does transactional analysis. And so transactional analysis is basically what it sounds like. Understanding why people interact the way that they do, how they interact with each other. We could get more specific than that, but that's a simple way to explain it. But what he was trying to figure out is there a pattern? Is there an algorithm for what happens to people when they experience stress or those reactive triggers that we're talking about, right? And what he found is that there was a very clear and profound pattern to that. I remember being in grad school and being like, this makes complete sense. It's nuts that this is what happens to people, right? And so what he figured out is that when people are under stress, they go in like 3 different directions. And again, handwriting, we are going to give you guys another resource where you don't have to be led by my handwriting. So wait for that at the end. But we have a rescuer, and we have a persecutor. We have a victim. So who's watched a Disney movie?
Me.
How did Disney movies start? Most of them with like a dead parent.
True. Finding Nemo.
All of them. Cinderella, Snow White, all of them. I think Sleeping Beauty didn't, but she ended up being almost dead. But like, it's, people are drawn to this. So that's the other thing. It's addicting, right? This happens in a Disney movie. This happens in survival situations because it should. So one of the things that we talked about before that was really important is when we're talking about the word victim, I want to be clear that we are talking about a victim mindset. So victimization is the actual situation where someone is victimized. Assault, being beaten, a number of different, like whatever it is, it's actually something that's happening, versus victim in the sense that we're going to be talking about it as victimhood. And victimhood is a mindset. So I need to make sure that's clear. As people do have trauma, this stuff is very real, but we are allowing it to kind of run our whole world right now, right? And so that's what we're talking about. So I don't want to undermine that at all. But if you are in the military and you just get dropped down in a helicopter and you're like in the middle of some kind of chaos, you very quickly need to be able to know who these people are and which one you are, right? Some people will say hero just to kind of create context to make it a little bit easier to think about. And some people will say villain over here also. So there might be easier words that resonate. But you get dropped in a stressful situation, you're very quickly going to go, which one of these people am I? Which one of these people are you? And where's the other one? Right? And it doesn't always have to be a person. It can be a circumstance. It could be traffic. It could be the weather. It could be any number of circumstances. But it exists in this format. So if we're going, okay, Karpman drama triangle, I'm under stress. What is your first reaction? We're going to put them on the spot, people. Which one of these? So it's starting gate reactions. You go under stress. You want me to? I'll take a little slack off here and tell you, my starting gate is this one. Yeah, I'm a therapist and a coach, and my starting gate is to be the villain to protect my safety. And we'll talk more. You'll understand this in a minute. But if things are going bad, which one do you become?
Probably the rescuer.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Probably the rescuer.
And we all play all the roles, so I'm not a villain all the time. But it's the idea that in this drama triangle, you need to know that, like you when you get dropped out of the helicopter, you're the one saving the day, right? When I get dropped out, I think the way that I'm going to keep myself safe is to crush somebody. But at the end of the day, that's how the hero thinks that they're going to rescue everybody anyway, right? So we're all going to rotate through these different things regardless of the circumstance. But the idea here is when you are in a fixed mindset, if you have a fixed mindset and you believe that things in your life are limited to what's supposed to be, what your capacity is, this is where you're going to go. If you get a bad grade on a test, and this is where helicopter parents come from, we're going to save them, right? Helicopter parents, the ones that go in and want to fight the teacher because you got a bad grade. Why are they fighting the teacher because you have a grade? They just made the teacher the bad guy. They're going to rescue their baby that's a victim of circumstance, right? But then guess what? Guess who becomes the victim? The teacher is now being beat up by the parents who were rescuers, but now they're the bad guy. And so the kid gets left with being like, am I going to make my parents feel better? Am I going to make the teacher feel better? What's going to happen? And what message are we sending them about their grades if we're parents going and fighting the teacher about their grade?
Their grades don't matter. It's the teacher's fault?
Well, both. We're teaching them that the grade is really important just in its number, because they're not going and saying, hey, what happened? Did they have a hard time learning? What was the reason that this happened? But this happens, and you rotate through it. You're going to be going from one thing to the next. Ping, 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 ping. So the persecutor is afraid of losing control. So what do? They're going to fight. And this goes back to fight, flight, or freeze. So it's going to be interesting for you to hear this. The hero, the rescuer, the dark underbelly of this one. So this person's like, I'm going to make everybody feel small. And that's how I'm going to keep myself safe. Or I'm going to put everybody else at a lower situation. That's how I'm going to save myself, right? And depending on nurture and a lot of different things, none of it's like characterologically bad. Like, I really do think if you went back, you would be able to go, okay, this is the person that was going to be the warrior. This was the person that was going to be this. Like, I think there's a natural order to why you might have that. Don't look that up because I don't know if there's science. It's just what I think. The dark underbelly to this person is they're going to go, I'm going to keep myself safe because I know that this person is worse off than me. And so let me give you an example. So when we're talking about a parent, if the parent goes, I'm going to go in and be a helicopter parent and I'm going to protect them from the teacher, they're teaching this child down here, you can't take care of yourself. You don't know what you need to do. Let me do it for you. So they're not saying, hey, let me go in and find out from the teacher what it is that we need to do to help you get to the next step. They're not saying, why don't you go back and talk to your teacher? Like, I have to send my kids' teachers messages and be like, I'm sorry if it's annoying that I send my child back to talk to you after they come complain to me. Because we're just telling them, you need us to take care of you. You can't handle this on your own. And we're going to be pissed if you don't make a good grade. But right now we're going to feel sorry for you instead of being angry at you. So the hero and the rescuer keeps themselves feeling secure by just keeping other people down, but in a way where it's more polite than this one. Like, this one's like, I'm going to keep you down. You're less than. You blah, blah, blah. And this person's like, let me take care of it for you. Let me make sure you don't have to deal with that. I got it. Right? But ultimately, and the victim is the powerless person that views themselves as like, poor pitiful me, and the circumstances created, right? Like, poor pitiful me, I'm limited, I can't do these things. And what's sad about it is it starts to shift. Like I was saying, nobody stays in any one of these roles forever or for even for long periods of time. We could have like a 5-minute interaction and we could just like shift and go around a million times. Because again, like I said, when the rescuer is coming to save this kid from the teacher that really wanted to support and challenge them and held them accountable for doing the best that they could, like let's say it's a paper or something where it's more subjective, we go, okay, the teacher was going, I'm not going to give, just because it's the best paper in the class, I'm not going to give them 100 because I want them to know that I still think they can learn more or they can do better. And so let's say they gave them a 90 or a 95 and it was a fair grade. They really wanted to make this person better. Maybe they were trying to challenge them, right? But now they've been made the bad guy. When they come and attack this person, they're going to be the victim. So they were trying to do something, then they're here, like, it gets messy. People stay in this constantly. Parents, relationships, teachers, watch the news for a minute. ESPN, I hope you hear this message. I used to love watching ESPN all the time. When I was in college, that was like the thing. I would get up every morning, I would watch it, it would be awesome. And then somewhere along the lines, either I developed into maturity to understand it this way, or they changed what they do. Watch Get Up in the morning. This is what they do all day long to keep your attention. Right? Who are we talking about that we think we feel sorry for? Who's a jerk? Who did something amazing? Who didn't deserve the credit that they got? Who did, like, we just dig into that, right? Reality TV. Constant, right? What's another one? Like I said, Disney movies. Like, the main character, you got like, there's somebody that's got a dead parent. There's some magical Prince Charming that's going to save them. Here's the person that killed their parent or wants to take their power. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, doesn't matter which movie you watch. You're going to see the characters rotate through this. There's going to be a minute when the victim, you're going to go, Are they about to be the villain? Are they going to go whatever? We just naturally thrive on this. So this is the risk to me, and there are lots of ways of looking at it, but this is the risk that we place in front of people when we identify a fixed mindset, is we're throwing them into this. What are the reasons that this is bad? Increased conflict.
True.
Reduced outcomes. Feeling like you're out of control, because none of these people feel like they're in control. They all feel like they're trying to play the game to move the chess pieces, right? Instead of being like, how do I empower myself and how am I going to be okay? It's how do we move somebody else? How do we use somebody else's experience to be okay? And don't villainize yourself when you see that this runs in your life, because it runs in everybody's life. There's not a person that walks in my office that we don't go over this stuff with, because it's that big of a deal. What are you wondering?
So the hero, rescuer, villain, persecutor, those require an additional person. Because in order for you to be a villain, you have to be a villain to someone. In order for you to be a rescuer, you have to rescue someone, right?
Mm-hmm. So it can be psychological and internal in yourself. So I'm going to give you an example. So, I have dyslexia and I have ADHD. We've talked about that. I can't help it that I have those things, but I work on them the best that I can. So I can create these situations in my own head. And everybody can, but I'm going to use my own example just because it's an easy one. I can be, let's say, I have a tendency sometimes to overschedule. I'm working on it, right? And so I can find myself in a position where I feel overwhelmed. And this is nobody else is involved, just me, right? So I start out feeling overwhelmed. And I don't like the way that I feel, because let's say that I was not paying attention and I just woke up one day and I was like, this is too much. I can't do this week. I just happened to look at my schedule. This is too much. I can't do it. What am I going to start to think? Maybe for a minute, I might make myself, I'm either mad at what? I can be mad at clients needing something that I sold, or I can...
So mad at that you're getting too much customer.
I can be, the business, the positive business can become the villain, right? This is crashing down on top of me. There's too much of it. And so I go, okay, I feel overwhelmed. I'm the victim for a minute. It's crashing down on me. And then I'm looking for a hero. Guess what my hero might be? Somebody canceling. Right? Mm-hmm. It might be. And I don't, this is not what my personal choice is, but it might be somebody goes out and gets wasted. I don't want to think about it anymore. Rescue me, alcohol. Mm-hmm. Or doom scrolling on Instagram, or looking for people that are worse off from me, or making this worse because I may come into work and instead of honoring the tension and looking for where I have control, I may just keep going. And so the rescuer actually becomes the work itself, other people's problems. I have the luxury of being able to come into my office and have very stimulating conversations with people about their issues. And so it's easy for me to be like, martyr, hero, I have to put that aside. My stress doesn't matter right now. I'm going to come in and I'm going to talk to people and we're going to figure out what to do. And I can do a good job. But guess what? The day's going to be over. And guess what's going to happen then? I'm going to go back home and I'm still going to be the person with the overwhelming schedule because I didn't think about what to change about it or what to do different. And so you may be looking for a snow day the next day. Or you maybe look like you're not thinking about what can I do. It's like, I need the weather to change. I need somebody to have COVID. I need whatever. We can find heroes in really strange things. Mm-hmm. And I may say, again, you focus on the villain as what? I could be like, my kids take up all my time. That's why this is happening. I just made my kids the villain. Mm-hmm. Somebody's granny needed me to help them cross the street. That's why this has happened. It could be anything at all. But guess what? Are any of them getting me any closer to any kind of vision, or are they just relieving my pain for a minute?
Relieving your pain.
And guess what's happening while I'm relieving my pain? The problem is growing. And I'm not getting anywhere, right? And I'm probably becoming worse at being a therapist, and I'm probably not being great to my kids. And so I'm starting to grow new problems.
So the Tylenol to your headache, it just subsides it. But
Absolutely. And it could be as simple as, let's say that I'm going to take you back a couple of years. I'm going to take you back to college. You're sitting there, you got a test tomorrow. Test is the persecutor or the professor or whoever it was, because you're not prepared, right? Let's say that you have other things that are important in life besides a test. And so you're not prepared and you feel like a victim, and they're over here and you're like, I'm going to play video games for a minute. Or I'm going to just call my mom for a minute. Or I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to sit over here and draw. Or I'm just going to stare at the ceiling. Because that feels better than looking at this content that I know I'm not prepared for. Right? But then guess what? That hero becomes the villain. I wasn't prepared for my test because I was playing video games. And then you become your own persecutor because you're like, dang it, I do this every time. Why did I do that to myself? Now I'm the bad guy. And I'm like, how am I going to fix this? Well, you may say, I'm going to do better next time. It's okay. But you don't know what you need to do better next time. And because you didn't sit with it to know. And so it just keeps going. And you're going to end up right back here doing the same thing you were doing before.
So it doesn't start with the victim, or does it?
It starts with a trigger.
It starts with a trigger.
There's no specific starting point. So it starts with, and I would even think about it starts with discomfort. Okay. It starts, and it can start for more reasons than that in full-on transactional analysis. But for this fixed versus growth mindset, it's going to start anytime things don't go as planned, anytime we feel insecure. And what your triggers are may be specific to you, right? So do you feel embarrassed? Do you feel frustrated? Do you feel less than? Do you feel afraid? Any of those emotions that take you to where you're I want to figure out how to get rid of this. You hear people all the time, how am I less anxious? How can I be less anxious? That's because anxiety is a great trigger for this. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily start at any of them. So for example, if you are a starting gate rescuer, and you may start at different ones at different times, you may be I haven't studied for this test tomorrow, but you know what? I'm going to just stay up all night and do it. I'm going to study for it all night long. So you might go rescuer first in that moment. But what you're going to realize is that you're tired and you're human and you're supposed to go to sleep eventually, right? And so then you start to shift through it. Or you may be immediately of course I'm not prepared for this test because my roommate's a jerk and they have their girlfriend over all the time and I can't focus. It starts anywhere.
Got it. So how can we get out of this cycle?
That is the question. And what's interesting, and again, I'm sending messages to the web universe out here. No one taught me in graduate school what to do about this. They teach you this and say, look for it, know that it happens, help people out of it. And we talk about cognitive behavioral therapy and we talk about controlling our thinking, which we're going to have a little tool for you guys for that at the end. But there's no bumpers or guidelines of yeah, I need to control my thinking, but what do I need my thinking to be instead? Where do I start to even know because as you see here, it's very nuanced, right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of heroes think that they have a good mindset or growth mindset, right? So it's just tiny little, like we were talking about with the kids and the language and all of that stuff, it's tiny little differences. So what we're going to talk about now, and I had the good fortune of being trained by the man that developed this, so I want to give him credit. His name's David Emerald. He wrote a book called The Empowerment Dynamic, so if you guys like this stuff, you should definitely check that out. He's got some other good things too and some resources on his website, so just want to shout out for that. But really, and here's what I want to tell you, it's going to be what I'm about to draw normally is drawn this is the Karpman drama triangle, right? Or this is the empowerment dynamic with a triangle this way. And this is, I'm confusing myself here, so we're going to pause. So the empowerment dynamic points up, right? And you'll notice that the Karpman drama triangle points down. And I'm going to draw them on top of each other. But there's a reason that it's like this, because with the empowerment dynamic, you're going to see that power moves up So think about like the triangle going up. But I'm going to, for the sake of making it easy to understand, I'm going to make them both in the same direction when I do this. So the first thing that we talked about was what? Victim, rescuer. So you see I flipped it here. And persecutor. And that triangle is going to go like this. And what I'm going to offer you is kind of like the anti-venom, or the antidote to this. And again, this is called the empowerment dynamic. And we're going to do this in a different color. We're going to replace these roles. So instead of like an entirely new way of thinking, what we're going to do is give you a tool that when you feel like you're being one of these things, you kind of know how to shift that mindset in that nuanced way that we talked about, to be able to gather yourself and be able to get yourself pointed that way. And again, we're giving you a lot of information here. This takes a lot of practice. I talk about this stuff every day and still have to practice. So just knowing it isn't going to suddenly solve the problem for you entirely, but we're going to give you the tools for it. A persecutor is going to become a challenger. See, no sunshine and rainbows. We're still going to have some pressure, right? The victim is going to become the creator. And the rescuer is going to become the coach. Those sound better right away, don't they? So, I think one of the things people think when they go into growth mindset, they're like, so are we just telling everybody that everything's okay? And just accepting people the way that they are? No, that would be victimizing them, right? And so the difference here is we're going to find a way to address the challenges within ourselves, the external ones, all of them, from this different framework. So instead of being a victim, I'm going to be a creator. What is a creator? A creator, like, when you think about the word creator, what do you think about?
Innovator.
Mm-hmm. That's a great word. What do innovators do? If I'm spelling it correctly.
They create, but
Mm-hmm. And why does innovation matter?
Innovation matter. It just helps us to grow.
Create solutions.
Yeah, to create solutions.
Do innovators get everything right the first time?
Absolutely not.
What Thomas Edison, did he have like 9,000 million failures? Right?
Yeah.
I'm making up numbers. But he has some incredible inventions. Mm-hmm. But he also had some incredible failures. And what did those failures teach him?
How to improve his already made inventions.
Well, the already made ones, and how to get to the ones that he made. I've heard people talk about Einstein, and he's a good example of this to me, is that like he had some real serious, he's kind of like more like me, where he had some limitations that he had to contend with as far as his own mental health or whatever. Like dynamic tension was something he was good at. So people will say that, I can't remember what the university is that he worked at, but that one of the things that they knew he was solving a problem when they saw him walking around campus. So he was not just sitting there like constantly making these formulas and it just like flowing like water. He would hit a barrier and he would say, I need to be an innovator. I need to be a creator. And so in order to challenge himself, he would walk through and kind of coach himself through like, what are things that I already know? What are things that could be different? And so he didn't say, ooh, this hurts, I'm going to quit. Or, oh, I'm supposed to be the smart guy, I'm going to quit. He kept going. But he didn't keep going as a glutton for punishment that was like, I hate this, but I'm going to keep going, right? So a creator is a person who, when faced with stress or a problem, and I want to give everybody permission to be a victim for a second. We all have that pouty moment. Mm-hmm. Something doesn't go our way and we stomp our feet for a minute, and that's okay. Just don't stay there. Get to the place where like, that's okay, I'm stomping my feet, that's not going to change anything. How do I create something out of this? It's as simple as that. How do I create something out of this mistake, out of this mess, out of this place where I'm at and I need to grow from it? So like when we talked about the thorn, we say, well, what do you have to do different next time? What do you need? That's the challenge, right?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I know that you said that the Karpman triangle, that was started or influenced by stress.
Mm-hmm.
The empowerment dynamic, is that also influenced and started by stress?
Well,
But you're just approaching stress from a different perspective.
so the way that we look at it is like in the drama triangle, when stress comes up, and honestly, these are both things that kind of exist all the time. So it's not that it just suddenly pops up, but we'll say that they're magnified. Like, because I think people either operate from one mindset or the other all the time, but we'll say that stress is the thing that makes it a little more shaky, right? So a person who experiences stress or trigger in drama triangle is going to have what we call a reaction. They're just going to like if I poke you, you're going to jump back, right? Like that kind of thing. It's not very well thought out. You don't have a vision for where you want to go. So in the drama triangle, we're trying to get away from something. That I think that's where the grass isn't always greener on the other side thing comes from, right? Because that's a reaction. Let me get away from this bad situation. But I'm not even thinking about what's on the other side, right? Like you see the people running from the bear and they run off the side of the cliff because they're not going, they don't pause for a minute and go, where's the smart place for me to run? They just start running. So they feel like they're doing something. A creator is going to have almost a pause. And Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist. He was in Nazi concentration camps. He had all these different, things that happened in his life. And he's got some amazing quotes and amazing things in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, where he talks about that pause. Because that pause allows you to respond instead of react. So in this dynamic, a creator has the same situation. If I step on your foot, whether you're a victim or a creator, you're going to have that pain of that foot, right? But the victim may go, I'm going to punch her. And the creator may go, wait, what's going on? Somebody just stepped on my foot. And they're going to look around and see that there's a million people and I have 5 bags and a kid over here. And they go, oh, that makes sense. Let me see if I can help them with their bag. So when we're talking about that moment where we react versus where we respond, that's the thing that's super key here. And that's where the biggest difference is. You can't maintain, if we're going to override our biological framework here, and we're saying biologically, our brains are supposed to tell us there's a threat, do something. The pause must happen because we have to override that and go, it feels uncomfortable, but I'm okay. Right? So it gives you permission to take that pause for a minute. And that allows you to go, and if I'm okay, what can I do right now? And somebody may go, well, you could stomp on their foot, and you're like, but I'm not a mean person. That's not who I want to be. And I'm like, well, that's still like running away. I'm just thinking about who I don't want to be. And I'm like, well, who do I want to be in this situation? I want to be a person that pauses and kind of thinks it through. And if the person deserves to have their foot step on back, I will do that. Or deserves to be punched, I can do that if I need to. But I want to be a thoughtful person. I want to be somebody that respects others. And I want to be somebody that knows people are human. And so I'm going to take a minute and go, scan the horizon. Get accurate information. Because with the drama triangle, there's a lot of assumption. Right? We are assuming a lot of things when we're in that situation versus being the creator. And what's cool is, again, we're in our own head right now. If I pause, the creator says, I'm going to pause, right? When I start having that conversation with myself of who do I want to be, I'm becoming my own challenger. So the challenger is that person, that circumstance, that thing. And I think that's really important to know too, is it can be circumstances. It can be the beliefs in your own head. It can be important people. Doesn't matter. Like, it can be anything. The same things that can be your persecutor. The challenger is that person who, or that circumstance who, or what, creates this sense of, it's like firm, like you would expect with a persecutor. Like it can be assertive, it can be firm, it can be light, but it's that person that thinks you can do more. Like, I'm going to hold you accountable for where you're at right now, or the thing that you didn't meet, or the thing that you did meet, but in a way that you know is because I believe you can do better, not because I want you to feel small. Right? So there's that person that beats you down, but you hear, and again, I'm a sports person, so I go back to this all the time, is like the coach that, like, you've got the coaches that are the persecutors that everybody wants to leave the team and needs therapy afterwards. I won't name any names. And then, then there's the coaches that they're like, yeah, he is hard. He has high expectations. She gives me like way more to do than I want to do and is really like pushing me. But they know, the difference is they know they're doing it because they want the person to succeed, right? Versus, I don't want you to embarrass me. Or I want to feel good about my skills or whatever. So the challenger is that thing that is going to push you, not down, but forward, right? It may hurt a little bit, and that's why you got to have a strong creator piece in you where you're like, The coach is the person that can provide the instructions. And people can almost, like, a person can be your challenger and your coach at the same time. So that's important to know too. Like, this is kind of like these sort of nuances exist, but how they exist can be about a million different ways. So somebody that's your challenger can be your coach, or you could have a challenger that's like, say, a parent. And they're like, you need to go back to your real coach, we'll say for the sake of sports, and get instructions. So instead of where the rescuer is going to say, hey, I'm going to fix this for you because you can't do it for yourself. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. And I think we've talked about this even like with work. This could be the boss that like you're struggling with a project and they're like, let me take that over for you. Versus let me sit down with you and let me show you how I would do this. Or let me give you some ideas about how you might move this forward. This person is saying, I think with the right information, you can make this happen. That's what the coach is doing. The rescuer is saying, you're never going to get this. It's going to be really hard for you, but I don't want you to be uncomfortable. So let me fix it for you, right? So that is kind of how you get into this, is your framework. If you're going to be in a growth mindset, you have to be able to understand stress, understand people and circumstances, and it's all on you. Somebody can be trying to be a persecutor, because those people exist, and you have to find a way to stay in this other dynamic. And that's what I was saying to you earlier. I want to be cautious about saying the environment has to be a certain way for people to be able to succeed in this. There are environments that make it easier, but let's say that someone's in an abusive relationship, for example. They're not suddenly going to be able to make the person that's being abusive a challenger, right? So we can't change other people. We can't change the circumstances around us in that way. But what we can do is decide not to be a victim, right? So instead of making my fight like, how do I make this, persecutor become a challenger, is like, how do I stay a creator? If I'm a creator and I'm in an abusive situation, I'm going to challenge the other person to go to therapy or to not hurt me, or I'm going to challenge myself to get out of this situation, right? Mm-hmm. And so instead of feeling like I'm stuck because I'm a victim and focused on this problem, I'm going to think about the outcome. Like in that situation, the outcome is I want to feel safe and I want to feel worthy and I want to feel like I matter, right? Mm-hmm. And if I want to do that, then I go, as a creator, what's my next step? Versus, I'm so sad that this situation is bad and it's hurting me because I'm a victim. You don't know what to do. But if you say, I really want to be safe and secure, like this is uncomfortable, and what the discomfort is, I'm not feeling safe right now over here, right? And I want to feel safe over here. What's in between me and that? And so that the tension is the challenger at that point. And so then we go, okay, if I want to get out of this situation or I want to go to therapy, how do I figure that out? The coach might be Google. It might be I'm going to go get some more information, or it might be call a friend, or it might be make the first phone call. Whereas if you were in victim mindset, you'd be like, somebody needs to come save me. And that gets really complex, but the persecutor kind of goes back and forth between those two things a lot. So it's that important to be able in a growth mindset. And like, again, going back to the first examples, if you're a kid in school and you are used to getting a 99 on everything you turn in, and you get an 85, because I have people that get a crisis over an 85. I would have been excited. But your crisis over an 85. If I'm either going to be a victim and try to find out they didn't teach me well enough, that mean teacher, or my mom wouldn't stop calling me, or whatever it is, right? But if I say, no, I'm not going to be a victim, I'm going to be a creator. What's my next step? What's an option?
Study harder.
I could say, maybe I did. Let me think back about that last week. Was there time I spent doing things that I could have put towards that? So it's the challenge, right? You're asking yourself difficult questions. Was there more time? Am I telling myself I didn't have time and there was more time and I just didn't use it, right? Or you might go to the teacher and say, hey, I was really disappointed about this grade. And I'm just confused about like what happened. I know that like, or let's say it's a paper, like I really felt good about it, but I don't understand what happened. Like obviously the grade isn't reflective of that. Because what you also have to do, and this is the magic piece, is if you're going to interact with someone else, you have to believe in their ability to be a creator, whether you've experienced it in the past or not. So like when you go to a teacher, you have to decide in your head, in order for you to stay in this triangle, that they want to coach you. A lot of us are like, they wanted to show me I was dumb, right? Or whatever it is. So you have to see yourself as a creator and see other people as having the potential to be that, even if they're not right now.
And that's a question that I have to ask.
Right.
Through your experience and also maybe through research, do you feel as though your more successful clients with regards to understanding this empowerment dynamic wear all the hats of the triangle, or do you believe that there is power in how do I say it? There's power in having specific people in your life play certain roles with regards to being a coach, a challenger, a creator?
I love that question. So, yes and yes. I believe that if you're going to succeed in the growth mindset, you have to be comfortable with the discomfort of wearing all of these hats. So, as a therapist, it's a really great example. I am a creator at heart here because I'm like, I believe in the ability to create outcomes for people. In order for me to be able to do that effectively, I have to also be comfortable making people uncomfortable, right? So I have to be able to wear the hat of like, sometimes challenging people can be awkward and can be uncomfortable. And it's not my job to rescue them and make them feel better. A lot of therapists get in this trap, right? Because they don't want to be the persecutor, because the person already has persecutors. That's why they're coming to me, right? So I need to be able to be comfortable being the challenger. I also need to be able to be comfortable being the coach. If you're going to come to me and, let's say you're a college student and you can't get a paper done, I shouldn't write the paper for you, right? I should be able to kind of talk you through and walk you through those things. So as an individual, if you're going to be assertive and you're going to be able to make it through, you've got to be able to do all those things. And if you're going to be happy and joyful and have a life where you meet your own expectations for your vision, you're going to want to surround yourself as much as you can. And you can't avoid this sometimes. Like, this is not something that gets eliminated entirely. That's impossible, right? But you want to surround yourself with other people who are creators, who can be challengers, who can be coaches, and you want to strategically place them, right? So honestly, that's one of the reasons why my job exists. That's one of the reasons why my coaching practice exists, because there's so much of the drama triangle in life that people want that consistent accountability to be in the empowerment dynamic. And so they say, hey, once a week for an hour, will you be my challenger? Will you be my coach? Will you help me stay a creator, right? So yes, the more you can surround yourself with people who operate from this standpoint, whether they know it or not, because most people don't even know they're doing it, right? They're not going to call it this, but you know who those people are, right? Like, you know the one that you're like, they're going to tell me again how I can be better, and I don't want to hear it, but I do want to hear it. Like, you know who that person is, where it's like you want to keep them there. Or the people that when you're trying to be a victim, because we're all going to try to be these things. I taught my husband this stuff, and he ruined it for me, because anytime I want to be a victim, he calls me out, right?
He's your accountability partner.
Yeah, and I want to punch him sometimes, because sometimes I want to be a victim for a minute. Yeah. But and he probably feels the same way about me doing it to him. But you need those people in your life.
Now, is it healthy to be a victim? Like, not healthy to be a victim, but is it healthy to be a victim for a minute?
If you can avoid it, that's great. But I would say most people are initially triggered, and it happens less often. So like for me, it happens less often that something will go awry, and that I'm like, oh no, everything's gonna crash down. But I think everybody sometimes is going to get there. And so I don't want people to feel bad about that. Like there are certain days if I'm more tired or I'm more frustrated or I've been self-sabotaging in some way where it's like, I don't want to own up right this second that I screwed this up. And so it just happens. And so I don't want people to think that that's like bad that it just happens. For me, what I tell people is like, rent it, don't buy it. Like, and you want to avoid it as much as possible, but if you're getting it, just rent it. Don't get in there and make payments and keep it for a long time. But yeah, I mean, yes, if we could make it go away, it'd be awesome. But the reality is there's also going to be some situations where you really are a victim. And so if we completely, it's kind of like if I were to tell kids, like, there's a car coming, but I want you to be a creator and I want you to cross the street. Like, I don't want people to not recognize threats. And I think if we completely rule out the ability to feel like a victim and we like demonize that, people are less likely to recognize actual risk. I still want people to know, like if I'm walking down the street and this person comes up to me and is like pulling on my purse, I don't want to be like, hey, is there something in here that you want? Like, right? Like in that moment, somebody's trying to rob me. And so you want to have that instinct still. But even if I pause for just a second, then I'm going to go, oh, I am a victim. Let me get out of this. So I think that's the importance, is it is a real thing. We just overuse it. It's not unusable. I want you to do all those things. Yell for the policeman across the street or whatever it is you're going to do. Like, but don't live in it as much as we do, because most people are spending like 95% of their life on autopilot in this and a stress and cortisol machine, when probably only 5% of our life exists in that, where we don't have control. So
Well, thank you so much, Candice, for your wonderful presentation.
Yeah.
I mean, this was very educational and informational, and I truly learned a lot, and I hope our viewers learned a lot from it as well. Thank you so much for speaking about this topic.
Yeah, no problem. And just a reminder, guys, we're going to post some things down below for you to be able to check out if this is interesting for you. We're going to give you a couple more tools and a couple of things that might help your next step along if you want to take that baby step.
Thank you so much for making it to the end of today's episode, and I hope you learned a lot about how you can transform your life through self-empowered growth. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.